Ooh, that's a lot of dings.
It's a long one, Mr. Craig.
That's something. So, guess who we have?
Will you please inform me, Mr. Craig, who we might have today?
We've got Peter J. Fournier for life lessons and sales sessions.
Ooh, those salacious sessions are about to be coming upon us, huh?
Let's do it.
Buckle up. It's the Insurance Dudes Podcast.
Hey, Craig, this year I got some crazy growth goals for my agency. And actually, I've been talking to a few other agents. They got some crazy growth goals. So can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing that's just crushing it in your agency right now?
Yeah, well, we're doing a lot of internet data leads through a company called EverQuote, and they're actually one of our sponsors.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, part of the Accelerated Growth Program, which includes having your own consultant that's going to go over your results, and it's positioned to make those leads cost less so that you have lower acquisition costs. It makes it totally doable.
Awesome. And so what has been your favorite parts about it so far?
I like the visibility into the results, and being able to compare what the numbers that they get on their side with the numbers that I get on my side, and seeing that they mesh up. So we know that the data is correct, and that we're actually in a cost per policy or cost per sale that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah,
Cool.
They make it real easy to track. And you know what? Guess what? They gave us a deal to offer to all of the insurance dudes and dudettes out there.
Oh, I got to know about this.
Yeah, all you need to do is go to go.everquote.com/insurance dudes. That's go.everquote.com/insurance dudes.
And they give all the insurance dudes out there a killer price on this. So I'm signing up.
What's up, guys? Can you hear me?
There we go.
There we go. Boom. Hey.
Close this door real quick. How you guys doing?
Sure.
Awesome,
Good,
man.
man. How you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Peter
Thanks for
Fournier.
coming on.
Is that right, Fournier?
Yes, sir.
With the French flair.
With the French flair.
Fournier.
Love it.
Well, welcome
You
to the
wanna-
insurance dudes.
Welcome to the dudes.
Yeah,
Thanks.
You want to just dive right in?
let's dive in. Let's dive
do it.
Do it.
What it was your first? We like to do a little icebreaker. What was your first concert that you ever went to?
First
and now
con-
I want to preface this with, like, where did your parents take you?
Oh, yeah.
Was it like a Barney concert, or was it like, you know what I mean?
So I
It can be
saw
that old.
the first one ever was probably Britney Spears, 98 Degrees, and the Baha Men
There we go.
Dude,
all together. I think I was like 12.
The Baja.
that's what I'm looking for. Those are the good nuggets
That's
that
it.
I'm looking for. Oh, who let the dogs out?
That's it. No one knew who they were. And then the song blew up. I was like, who are these guys?
So that was
And then-
post, or that was
was
pre.
Like the Baha Men opened for Britney Spears and 98 Degrees, and it was in Arthur Ashe Stadium during the U.S. Open. Like they had this Arthur Ashe Kids Day, and they went on and sang that song and like 4 or 5 others, and people were like not even in the stadium. Like no one knew who they were. It was wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they had other songs.
Right?
They
They did like a half-hour set.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like
And then 98
people.
degrees.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you go to these shows and the opening band is just, that ends up being big. Like people aren't there.
Oh,
I mean, I went
crazy.
to
It makes no
Next
sense.
bit, Jane's Addiction, where Nine Inch Nails opened, and we were like 9 inch dildos. I don't want to have any part of that, like it was. And then here you go. Wow. I mean, one of the biggest bands of the 90s. I mean, just crazy. Dave, I went to a Grateful Dead where Dave Matthews opened, and we were
That's
like,
wild.
who the hell's Dave Matthews?
I went to a Dave Matthews. I'm a huge DMB fan, and I went to a Dave Matthews concert where Jack Johnson opened, and like no one was in the stadium.
Clueless, right?
Yeah, Clueless. Like played Taylor, all those like throwback Jack Johnson acoustic songs. It was just him by himself with a microphone.
With no shoes on.
Right. Yeah, with Birkenstocks on.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, Peter, thanks so much for hopping on. For anybody who hasn't heard of you or is living under a rock, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, like where you came from, how you ended up in insurance?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in insurance since pretty much college, which is kind of crazy. I got roped into that college intern game for a captive and got paid like, I think it was $150 a week at the time. Actually, even before that, I interned for ING, which no longer exists. Got absorbed by Voya. And at that point, I was getting paid like, I think it was like $9 an hour at the time to cold call for the producers. And, they were driving around in like Porsches and shit. And I was like, am I allowed to curse on this? This is good.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
So they were driving around like Porsches and I was like, what is going on? And then I saw the opening at Northwestern Mutual for the intern program. And I was like, all right, let's see what this is all about. So I got paid like $150 a week. I wrote down, 300 people that I knew. And then my college unit director was like, all right, go sell them something. I was like, how do you do that? I was like, okay. So, I mean, that arguably that could have been like the best training you get is like, oh, you can't swim, just throw them in the deep end, see what happens. So I did that throughout college. And then after college, worked for another captive and then finally went independent in 2013 and kind of never looked back. So I was at 2 IMOs before I found Innovative Financial Group, who I'm with now. But yeah, it's been almost a decade, which is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell us, tell us from that point on, what was that path like? You came out of 2 independent or 2 captives.
Yeah, it was a wild one. You don't know any better. I think my initial comp as an intern and these companies might've changed their comps, so don't take them for gospel, but I think I was paid like 30 to 35% initially. Ooh. And had to do joint work. Like my mentor would like take me out, and we'd split the case. So you're making like 15, 17 points, I guess, on a term product that's $10 a month, but it was money. Like I was making money at 21, so I didn't care. And then I went to another captive that bumped my comp. I think the initial one was 42.5. So I was making like 15 more points. I was like, oh my God. And they provided leads, which was like crazy baffling. And then I got approached by an independent organization that no longer exists. And the manager let me have a 55 on term and a 60 on final expense. And I was, woohoo, I'm rich, Yeah. So I stayed there for a while until they folded up, went to AmeriLife, who is humongous, and stayed there for a while and now found Innovative.
Awesome.
So there's so many different directions to go in just the insurance space. What gravitated you towards this side of it?
Yeah. So I knew I didn't want to get like completely stuck in the captive model. And I like, there's nothing really against it, but it was hard selling like one product line, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And I would consider myself a pretty decent closer, but it's a tough sell. So if you can sell that stuff and you're successful there, I mean, more power to you. That's awesome. In terms of like being on the broker side of things and why choosing that, I think it was really like, I was always in an entrepreneurial type mindset. Like I was flipping Pokemon cards at like an early age or trying to like resell sneakers or, anything I could get my hands on. I used to buy stuff at clearance from like Office Max that no longer exists and then flip it at like a garage sale. Like I was always in that like sales, I wanted to own my own business mentality. And the broker side of things, at least initially, I mean, it was sky's the limit. It was all on you. Your manager would give you the occasional help at the time and that was it. And then you could write your own destiny. So I think that drew me down that market path.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. What was that? Yeah, you go, Craig.
Well, do you have a niche that you specialize in? What do you particularly like?
So I specialize in mortgage protection, big time.
Okay.
Did not like, personally, the final expense market. Did not like occasionally sitting in, cat pee and all that nonsense, right? In some trailer in in East Jabib. It was tough. Naturally, by course of action, final expense tends to be a smaller deal size, and coming from the captives where you might not have made that much money initially anyway, I wanted a bigger deal size. So mortgage protection allowed me to do that because, as you guys probably know, easy mortgage protection pitch is like term and then term return or premium maybe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was pitching IULs and whole life for mortgage protection and getting, $200, $300, $400 a month and showing the value. So I stuck on that route for a long, long time. And then as direct mail leads got more and more expensive, I kind of branched out and went nuts on referrals. So I'm the referral guy. I was trying to average at least 3 to 5 per household. So that way I didn't have to spend $40-$50 on an MP lead at the time. Because when I first went independent, they were like $26 for a brand new lead. So it was pretty cheap, like in hindsight, right?
Sure.
Expensive at the time, but cheap now. So as those mail prices kept going up, I was like, man, this sucks. Like, how do I get free leads? So I got good at referrals. So mortgage protection into more advanced markets. So big whole lives, big IULs, the occasional annuity, that kind of thing is where my specialty lies.
Was this going in, sitting at the kitchen table, or was this over the phone?
100% kitchen table. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't love door knocking either. It wasn't my favorite thing to do. So I made sure I got really good at the phones instead of knocking on everybody's door and trying to get in at that time. So phoning was really important to me. But yeah, every appointment was in person. So you're driving all over, at that time, Ohio when I first started, and then New Jersey where I moved back to. But, driving all over the freaking state to get a plan.
And so how do you keep yourself accountable in that situation? I mean, obviously you've been doing this a while and you've become successful at it, but to people, ladies and gentlemen, or dudes and dudettes cutting their teeth in this world, I mean, it can be a grind, right?
Oh, yeah.
And how do you overcome that? How do you stay focused? How do you keep the vision?
The easiest way, and I've heard a lot of people do this, like, I don't think it's a new topic or new idea, but maybe new to some of your listeners, is I broke everything down in terms of when I had to door knock, how much was a door knock worth? When I had to make a phone call, how much was that dial worth? So it wasn't like, oh, I made $3,000 for the week and it was just ambiguous, right? And I was appreciative for the $3K and that was it. I knew like every dial I made $65. Or every sit, regardless if they sold or not, was worth $400 or something of that nature. Every referral was worth like $40. So that way, when you look at your schedule at the end of the week, and I was a big proponent on breaking down my numbers every week so I could get better. When you look at your numbers, even though that money wasn't deposited into your account yet, you could see, hey, all my activity made me $8,000 this week. Now I may have only taken home 3, but eventually I'm getting that other 5. I think that's the easiest way to hold yourself accountable, because this business, for the most part, you're kind of on an island. I mean, most guys and gals will have a manager or an organization to help them a little bit, but on the day-to-day, no one's holding your hand or telling you what to do. So you kind of got to break it down monetarily. And if you're not motivated by money, it's a tough industry to be in.
Yeah. And it's funny. It goes back to that whole saying of that which is not measured cannot be approved upon. Like it's a very,
yes,
you have to have those measure, like, especially with life insurance. And I think that's for all the captives, there's some sort of life insurance with it. So, and for independents, it's a great field. Everybody needs it. It's something to at least look into if you're maybe in some other niche of that. But yeah, it's definitely something you have to, there's a tail on it too.
Right.
So it's really hard. A lot of people struggle with it. What have you found to be like, what's your formula these days going at it?
Yeah. So in terms of scheduling and stuff?
Yeah. Just like if you, I guess this, if you were talking to another insurance agent, they get into the business recently, they're like, man, I got to sell life insurance. Like, I don't even know where to start. You know what I mean? What would your advice be?
my brand new person, especially if they're just jumping into the industry, would be write down your warm market. And I'm going to tell you like every other captive, and it sounds cliche and it sounds like, oh God, I don't want to do this. Right.
Right.
But write down work your warm market and work referrals off of your warm market. When you're making commissions, regardless of what comp level you're at, set aside $3,000 into a separate bank account that has nothing to do with expenses, whether business or personal. Right? You can't pay your house with it, right? Set aside $3,000. Once you do that, then get on a reoccurring lead buy every single week, whether it's final expense, mortgage protection, annuities, whatever leads you're getting, I don't care. It's personal preference. But that $3,000 is very important because the average agent should be spending anywhere from $300 to $600 at least in their interim or immediate position in this career a week. So $300 to $600 a week. Well, if you blank 2 weeks in a row and at max you spend $1,200, there's still $1,800 in that account that you can rely on to buy more leads. People fail out of the industry so fast because they're terrible at money management. Right? So if I made $3,000 for the week and I spent it all on a watch or a house or whatever, paid my bills with it and set no funds aside for leads or a small amount, or I'm using my generic checking account to pay for leads, you start getting in that scarcity mentality of, man, I keep spending money and I'm not making that much. Well, if you have a buffer and you're refilling it, like we have Easy Pass in New Jersey, right? If you're just replenishing it all the time, so you take 1,000 out for leads, you make some money, you put the 1,000 back in. So you'll always have that rolling 3K. You could go on a 2-week vacation and it doesn't matter because leads are still coming in and you still have that buffer account. So that's the immediate is sell your warm market, sell your referrals, save up some money. My goal number would be $3,000 and then harp on leads until you don't have to anymore. You might get good referrals or whatever. Yeah.
And purchasing leads, because we buy a lot of leads also, Jason and I both, but PNC. So a little bit, which with a quicker sales cycle. And when you have this longer sales cycle, I would suppose that your lead purchases are a little bit quicker because they're higher intent. Whereas you have the referrals, which eventually are going to be your organic growth. And that has that longer 6 month, maybe a year tail, or even 3-4 years, right?
Right. And I always had the mentality in terms of scarcity of what's going to change in the industry later on that might screw me. Right. And one day some government entity might wake up and be like, it's illegal to market for life insurance leads.
Right.
I'm still going to be here. I got hundreds of referrals, right? Stacked. I'm going to be okay. Are you going to be okay? Right. So even though you're spending that money on leads, focus on that referral market, average 3 to 5 per house. You don't have to sell all of them, but at least you have those prospects stacked and you're bringing, again, I bring everything down to a monetary level. You're bringing your average lead cost down. If you're spending $20 a lead, but you get 5 referrals, it's $4 a lead now, right?
Right.
So treat it that way. But I always wanted to make sure that my business wouldn't be affected by anything that changes in the economy around me, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Recession proof it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think insurance in general, whether in your life, health, PNC, I think it's all pretty generally recession proof. We're not selling luxury watches or cars, right? People are always going to need what we're pushing, but make it so no one can control your future business. If they turned off marketing because they made it like unlawful, you're going to be all right if you're good at referrals.
Yeah.
What would you go?
How did you, you're like every human, right? We question ourselves. We're always in our head where we're thinking like, this isn't going to work. They're going to think I'm an asshole. Like, how do you you're on that kitchen table the first time and you start developing this referral process where you're asking, when did you finally break through and see results from doing that? And how did you work it? Not to give away your secret sauce, but
I obviously had to get referrals in the captives because one captive provided leads, but there weren't a ton of them because they were free, right? So they gave them to you sparingly, and the other, you had no leads. So starting there helped out, right? Because it was sink or swim anyway. But I think really where I drove it home personally was my second year in the independent space. First year, I was buying a lot of aged leads and getting on a plane and flying to different states because the lead returns were better. I didn't have a lot of money coming from captive to independent. I also spent a lot of money like an idiot, which is why I'm harping on money management now so much for myself and my agents. But I was flying all over the country, like trying to sell leads. I was like, I can't sustain this. I mean, from 23 to 25, it was cool, like whatever, but you can sort of have a family and do that right later on. So I think it really clicked like my second year in the independent space. And really all I did initially, and this is a little tip for everybody trying to learn how to get referrals out there, leverage your beneficiaries on your sales. So all I did was get a primary, and this is obviously for life insurance, but a primary, a contingent, and a tertiary beneficiary, or 2 primaries and a contingent, or 3 primaries, or whatever, and leverage those and let your prospect know, listen, I just need to reach out to your beneficiary, speak with them for 15 or 20 minutes, let them know what it means to be a beneficiary, how to, God forbid, file a death claim if something happens to you, give them all my contact information. And if it's okay with you, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, I'd like to go over what you purchased, if it's okay for me to tell them, because maybe your kids want the same product that mom and dad has. Is that cool? And they'd be like, yeah. And you'd start filling out their application. At that time, everything was on paper. There's no e-app, right? Or limited e-apps. And while I was filling it out, I would ask them, hey, can you text your beneficiaries or give them a call? Let them know what you're doing right now. And I'll reach out right after this appointment's over. And that was it. And it's very non-invasive. You're not trying to, crush them sales-wise. You're just explaining what it means. And a lot of the times, if you got 2 or 3 in a house, one of those referrals would be like, give me the same plan mom and dad got. You'd be like, okay. And then you're a glorified order taker at that point, right? There's no selling, which was cool. And then I got brazen enough to start full blown asking for referrals, telling people this is how I make my money, blah, 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 give me some people. But the initial crutch, for lack of a better term, leverage those beneficiaries and make it super easy to get referrals.
That's awesome. And I think referrals is something that nobody does well. You know what I mean? Like anytime I hear about referrals, I'm like, dang it. Like that's definitely the biggest weakness that we have. And I think a lot of agents, especially when you're on the sales train, you're buying leads and stuff, you have a process and you follow that process. And then you start thinking about, wow, with all the volume that we're doing, there's all these different areas that we could.
Right. And I think the problem is you guys probably see it in the PNC, right? Either with yourselves or with agents or whatever. No matter what, as a salesperson, you could be selling toilets. I have no idea.
Right.
Once you get the okay and you made the sale, you feel inside like, I don't want to jeopardize this. I'm not going to ask any more questions, right? I'm just going to get the sale and go. You already closed it. You can't say much that's going to turn their mind around as long as you did a decent presentation, right? You already got the yes. So go for the second money. I think that's a Grant Cardone thing, is like second money. But the first purchase is always the hardest. The second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, whatever, is always easy. So you might as well ask, right?
It's for sure. It's like what Russell Brunson does with Clickfunnels, right? You sell the product, upsell, downsell, sideways sell. You do all this other stuff because you've already made the sale.
Right.
So why aren't we asking? And we just had this discussion in our meeting this morning with my team because we're doing like a 3-pronged process after we close the home and auto, where there's first swing. So the first line of defense is the producers. So the PNC producers have to ask, no matter what, in every conversation, they have to bring up life, right? It's, do you own your house? It's either going to be yes or no. If it's no, then great. We're going to include a $100,000 term, right? If it's yes, great. How much do you owe on the house? Do you want to see it paid off? Right. So that's very simple, non-threatening. And they give them a rate. They say, we're going to include this in the package. And then we can always back it off.
Awesome.
Right. And then the next day, if they say no, the next day I have a second swing. So I have my sales manager is calling, congratulating them, going over the discounts, sort of like beneficiaries, going over those discounts and saying, hey, we want to make sure you have all the stuff. You're going to get the paperwork. Was everything great? Did they bring up life insurance? By the way, it's only boom. So we're hitting them again, right? And they say yes or no. 2 weeks later, I have the person that does all our reviews. She's actually back here, does all of our reviews, our annual reviews or whatnot. And she also does the third swing. So she's calling them and saying, hey, I want to verify. I know that, Linda's super good. She usually asks the right questions and gets you the right coverages. I've been in the business about 10 years and I just want to make sure that everything's right. So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper than they did. Is that all right? Do I have your permission? They say yes. Awesome. And then boom, we go through it. And it's like literally since we implemented at the beginning of the year, we've uncovered over 15 million in assets. We have an appointment today. I haven't even checked up. That's a $10 million annuity. I mean, it's just like, what? How did this even?
Unbelievable.
Right. And then we have several life policies already in the hopper because we're doing it, right? But it's that repetition, right? Yeah. Developing a process, holding them accountable, and then going through it. So not to hijack.
Not one prospect in that funnel would probably be like, oh, hey, Craig, by the way, I got $10 million. You want it?
Right.
No way. Ask.
Not one.
Right.
Not one.
And it was just like, hey, let's make sure you have the right amount of coverage. And they had state minimum. They have, it's way more than 10 million because they won a giant lawsuit. Something happened. Like a seatbelt broke in their car and they won a big lawsuit. And so, but you would never, when you see these people, you would not think there's $10 million in an annuity that just came out of surrender. Like that wouldn't even cross your mind. And because we did the process, we connected with it. A couple years ago, $1 million rollover because we did a similar process. But it comes down to this not asking. If you don't ask, you're 100% they don't have it.
Right.
I mean, you're guaranteed.
And you bring up a good point too, Craig. Like especially when I first started out, prejudging is like the ultimate killer in this business. Like I've sold $500-600 a month whole life for IULs to people like in a trailer that I didn't think could afford $30 a month.
Sure.
Just show it to them. You can always go backwards, right? But you'd be surprised on like who has money and who doesn't. So never prejudge. Just go through your presentation and then ask.
And who's going to connect with that need, right? A lot of times the producers are not going to buy that life insurance. They're like, well, I wouldn't get it, but it doesn't matter what you would do. It matters what they need, and doing the proper needs diagnosis. I mean, that's how you land on this stuff. So it's just super powerful to ask the right questions.
You guys, that's another good point too. I'm sorry, segueing, but how many agents do you guys run into, either PNC or life, that don't even own life insurance? Like, what do you do?
Tons. Yeah, tons.
Like I like cars. I'm a big BMW fan. It's like buying my BMW from a guy that drives like a Camry. Like, what do you know about the car? You don't even drive it.
Right.
Makes no sense.
No, it's so true. It's so funny. Yeah. Definitely it's the, I mean, whether or not it's PNC or life or anything, you gotta the best producers take the emotion out of it and give the best presentation every time regardless. And then you eliminate any kind of, oh, I didn't do it to this person. I didn't do it to this person. I gave so-so. I always say it's two-pronged. So one is you're going to miss out on opportunity. So if you want to sell the most, you have to give the best presentation every single time. And then the other part is if you give a crappy presentation, you're teaching yourself to suck. Like that's what we tell everybody. So like if you give 10 great presentations and 2 of them suck, it eliminates half the good ones because you're teaching yourself to suck. So if those were the last 2, you're probably going to start off the next day horribly.
Right.
Like Shaq with his free throws, right? I mean, he sucked because he did the same thing. Every single
continuing to suck. Yeah.
Right. I mean, until he had taco neck. Right. He did land the Taco Bell commercial. So
that's like, I forget who said it, but it's not practicing or practice makes perfect. It's practicing perfect makes perfect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
If you're practicing a crappy presentation, you're only going to perfect the crappy presentation.
Absolutely.
But if you're doing everything perfectly, you're going to eventually get there.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. And back when I was a drummer, they'd say perfect practice makes perfect permanent.
Yes.
And it's so true with anything in life. You know what I mean? Like
I wanted to be a drummer actually, instead of this crazy. I went to school initially. I wanted to be a musician. and then boom, insurance.
Here you are.
You were a musician then, right?
Yeah. I played
Yeah.
guitar, drums, a little keyboard, a little bass. Yeah.
Wow.
Cool, man. Same
Yeah.
here in a previous life.
It's awesome.
And along those lines too, it's so critical to coach the team, because what happens, and I don't remember who said it, one of our podcasts that we were talking to somebody, they said if any perfect system is going to decay into chaos if it's left unattended, right? I think it's an Einstein saying, it doesn't really matter. But like, that's real important, right? If you leave it alone, everything is not a mushroom where it just magically grows in the dark and everything works out. Everything else does not work that way, right? You leave it alone, it's going to slowly slip. Bad habits are going to come in and it's going to go to shit. That's just the way that it is. And so, I know Jason coaches his team every day. Peter, I'm sure you coach your team every day. I know you coach other teams also. And it's the same thing. When we don't meet, it starts to go to decay. Like I was in Hawaii for a couple of weeks over Christmas. I get back, there's some bad habits. Even though I have salesmen, we actually sold more than when I was there, which is another funny story. But however, that you could hear in the conversations, it was being done a little differently that don't ultimately produce the best results. And so why don't you talk about how you coach your team and what your philosophy is behind that?
Sure. Yeah. So a lot of one-on-ones. I try to do, because I'm like wearing 50 hats right now, but I try to get with the team at least once a week on an individual basis. I like group trainings too, but I feel like everybody needs a little different stuff. So I'd rather spend like 15, 20, half hour with each person individually than do like a 3 or 4 hour group presentation and have what I want today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the one-on-ones are important. And then within the organization, we actually developed a training university. So that way I can replicate myself constantly. So if you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you want training, you're obviously not calling me because I'm asleep, but you can log into our university, go through the training videos, go through the quizzes. We're constantly testing the agents at the end of each module. And it's anything from final expense, mortgage protection, advanced markets, annuities, Medicare, basically any product that you want to sell, you can get trained on and tested on. So, and it's all about repetition. Like once they complete one course, they should go back to it at least on a weekly basis, reaffirm everything. So it's a multi-pronged approach in terms of training. The one thing I don't do, and other life insurance producers might like shame me for it, is I don't really believe in me doing field training. And the reason for that, like going one-on-one with somebody in my car and going in the house, I used to do it a ton. And I found one of two things happen. Either the agent really tried to impress me and they would like overly push and overly close, right? And not get the sale. Or they would crap their pants because I'm in the house with them, right? And they wouldn't get the sale. So either way, we both, like, it doesn't work. So I actually have stepped away from doing that, I would say in the past like 3 or 4 years. I don't touch the field training just for that reason. I know some people do it and it's extremely successful, but I've never had good luck with it.
What about listening to calls? Do you do that in the office?
We do a once a month national, and then we do weekly calls on specific topics. So maybe it's advanced markets in terms of IUL pitches or how to fund one, or it's the perfect mortgage protection sit or the perfect senior close or something like that. Each individual thing is a topic. And then we actually started our own podcast so we could do weekly announcements, because the problem with having, like, Innovative's got 5,200 agents that I'm in charge of training with a couple other members of the executive team, right? It's a lot of people. So some people don't check their email. Some people don't log into the Facebook group. Some people don't watch the university, right? So we got to blast it on all mediums. So it's going out email. We're doing weekly and national calls. We go through the university. We go through the Facebook group. And now we're doing our own podcast too, specifically for our agents.
That's an internal?
Yeah. One is really internal and one's external.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We dive into, and PNC is a lot more phone heavy.
Sure.
And we will do hot seats in the office where we play the call with everybody around. And I think nothing will make somebody more uncomfortable, but then also break through, right? You hear yourself, just yourself. Like, I mean, the first couple of times editing, listening to us on this, I'm like, oh man, it's like,
yeah, why did I say that?
Yeah, why did but it's like you do that with them and they're super uncomfortable. But then when their team is supporting them and we're giving the feedback, usually a little positive, then here, this is what you could do, and then positive, it really helps them break through, and you see that needle move the other direction.
I love that. We do, we have similar like live dials. So we'll get on like a Zoom or a GoTo meeting, and someone will be like ballsy enough to dial all their leads, and then other people will dial in the same Zoom meeting. So you can't like hear each other, you hear it on the playback, but it builds a little camaraderie because like we said before, a lot of people are on an island. You could be in Florida, California, wherever. So we do Zoom live dials, which works out too. Some people are a little scared to do it, but it works out for those that do.
But I think that's so important though. It does two things. It brings the team together. Because you feel, I'm so nervous, and the other guy next to you was nervous, or virtually or whatever. And then once that's done, it's like everybody's like, oh, that was crazy, huh? And it's like, so not only does it make you better, but it brings the team together. And I think that group training has been a game changer for us since we've done it. I think it's a good thing to encourage on here, regardless of what you're selling or anything.
Well, and
it really helps.
And with this, like this Zoom, like there's three of us looking at each other. We're in three geographically different locations in the planet. And yet it's like we're in the same room. Remember David Meerman Scott, he actually goes on stage with Tony Robbins, and he was on here. He was talking about like the physiology behind Zoom meetings. It's as if you really are connected. Like this is as good as you can get to being in person. And our brain believes that we're in person when we're doing this, so we're seeing the gestures, we're smiling at each other, so it really is super impactful. I have, Jason has 2 locations. I have 3 locations, and we're on at least once daily with everybody on there. That's cool. From when I didn't do it to when I now have done it, significant impact on the results and the team, right? The camaraderie, like Jason said.
Totally. Yeah. It pulls you to get, and I think that, with what we're doing or anybody, you get into like desk drone, you know what I mean? So like those times that you pull away, it's such a good thing. It helps you recharge.
Yeah. This business, whether you're selling P&C, life, health, whatever it is, insurance can get super mundane. Like it's hard to
it is like,
right? It's hard to sit at your desk and make calls or drive around in the field for 9 hours a day and not be like, oh man, this is rough.
Yeah, totally.
Music and coffee only takes you so far,
Right. Well, so you've been a mentor. You're a mentor to people, but before you became a mentor, who did you look up to? What different people did you pull on as mentors to learn?
Yeah, it was a lot of people outside of the industry, I think. I didn't really have the best uplines, I guess, for lack of a better term. I had one really good one that kind of took me under his wing a little bit. But it's funny. So I interned for Northwestern in college. And at that time, my dad started working so my dad was in corporate America for like years and years and years. And he was in HR, nothing to do with sales, whatever. And the company got bought out, so he needed something else to do. So he started working for Colonial for like worksite benefits. And we kind of came up together in terms of learning the industry. So it wasn't like mentor-mentee, but we like talked every day and was like, what's working for you? I can't do that, but this is working for me, and like shooting stuff back and forth. So I think that helped out a lot, because what I think is broken a little bit with our industry is the lack of people wanting to help other people. Like you guys may do it, I do it, right? There are others out there that do it, but insurance in general can be a very selfish industry. So it's hard to get that mentorship from someone that's not reaping the financial benefits of mentoring you, right? Or being a direct manager. So I think that's hard. But me and my dad went through a lot of stuff together in terms of like learning the ropes at the same time, which was really cool to be able to do that with family. And now he's doing really well and I'm doing really well. So it worked. But I think that anyone starting in this industry, if you start with a friend or you know somebody or like somebody, I would attach at the same level. Obviously get coached, get mentored, whatever, but find like a running buddy that like you can recap the field with on a daily basis. It doesn't even have to be from the same company, right? Just someone that you know you like and is on kind of the same path that you are, to bounce shit back and forth on a daily basis. Makes it a lot easier.
100%.
100%. So awesome advice. What would be the number one piece of advice you would give any insurance dude or dudette out there? Like the number one thing. If you could only give one.
If I could only give one, it would be keep to a process. And like, not just your pitch, not just your close, not just your scheduling, but like why it can become mundane is because the best insurance agents, regardless of the product that they sell, have the same day, the same week, the same month, the same year. Now there's growth in there where you're doing more and more and more, whether you're hiring people or replicating your systems with others, or maybe outsourcing admin stuff that allow you to build revenue. But you have to stick to that process. As soon as you become lazy or you think, oh man, I'm the shit, I don't need to do X, Y, Z anymore, is immediately when you start dying in this business. So find a process, and as soon as it works, do it. Like, I would never have a problem if you showed me how to make $1 million a year and all I had to do was A through Z every day. I'd be like, all right, Craig, all right, Jason, I'm just going to copy exactly that. And maybe I'll make 1.1 million or 1.2 or whatever. But like, I was never of the mindset, well, you don't know what you're talking about, I'm going to reinvent the wheel. Like, that's so stupid. You know, you don't have to do that. Just latch on to a presentation or a formula that's made others successful and just copy it, man. I mean, it's not rocket science. The industry is not easy, but it's extremely simple. You know?
As long as you did it, create that process and then stick to it, and don't give up. I think a lot of people give up because it just is, like you said, it can be difficult to do all of that activity, to hustle like you need to.
Right. And knowing like, I'm going to wake up today and I'm phoning from, 12 to 7. Like, that could be hard to wake up and be like, oh, today is Tuesday, phoning 12 to 7. But like, you have to do that. Which, going back to my initial advice of like, break down everything to a dollar amount will make it feel better. If you know you have to dial for 6-7 hours and every dial's worth $12, it's not so bad,
For sure. Peter, this has been so awesome. How can people find you? What other things are you doing? How are you helping people? Would love to.
So if you're not a part of Innovative, like I'm obviously training for them, I'm their president of sales, but outside of that, I also own a coaching and consulting company. So they can find me at petefournier.com. Anything from sales training to, I literally wrote the book on selling life insurance. So I do have, it's called the Sling It Playbook.
Nice.
And it's soup to nuts, the insurance industry. My presentations, my scripts, my closes, my solidifications. I basically took my best year ever and broke it down. So if you want to visit the website and check that out, it's petefournier.com. And then I'm basically Peter J. Fournier everywhere on social media, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. I just joined. It's weird.
TikTok.
Nice.
It is weird.
YouTube, Facebook. Feel free to follow me and tap in. I do a lot of free trainings too. If you visit my YouTube channel, I do, or follow me on Facebook, I do what's called the Daily Tip. And it's like 90 seconds to 3 minutes on just something that's going to better your business.
Cool.
I cater it more towards life and health, but I'm sure PNC can use it to cross sell.
Well, everybody that's a PNC agent has that requirement. So I think that it's one of these things that we put off to the side until, November, December, when it's like, oh no, we got to hit our number, and so to be consistent and come up with a process is imperative. And it sounds like you put some really good stuff together. We'll put links down in the show notes to all this stuff so they can find you and don't have to figure out how to spell your name. So, but we'll get that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, thank you so much. Anything else you wanted to add?
No, really appreciate the opportunity, guys. I listened to a bunch of episodes beforehand. You guys had some great guests. So, pretty humbled to be on the same playing field as some of those other guys.
Man. Well, thank
Oh,
you.
dude,
Yeah,
you're awesome, man.
sure.
Thank you so much. I think there's a lot of stuff that a lot of agents will take back and hopefully implement and make 2020 an amazing year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, dude. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
All right,
Appreciate
dude.
it.
Thanks.
Jason, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up one of our sponsors, EverQuote.
Oh, tell me a little bit about them.
Well, I've been using them for a couple months, and I'll tell you that the results are delightful. It's been now a couple months, and over time, my cost per sale has dropped every single week.
That is awesome. Tell me, so you're on a specific program with them?
Yeah, it's called the Accelerated Growth Program, and this bad boy gets you a better deal on those leads, so way less expensive, and you get a consultant that's going to actually go over your results to make sure you're tracking properly.
And so you've been doing that for the last couple of months and consulting with them?
Yeah, and I see everybody complain about leads and this and that, and it's like, look, if you don't have a process to track and measure your results, then I can totally get it. You don't even know what your results are, right?
And you asked them to give all the insurance dudes and dudettes out there a killer deal on this, and they came through, didn't they?
They came through, and I know you're going to take advantage of it, but if they go to go.everquote.com/insurance dudes, that's go.everquote.com/insurance dudes, then guess what?
What?
Deal City.
I'm there.
Do it.
Hey, you've got to check out the Insurance Dudes Inner Circle coming soon, where you get extended interviews as well as live coffee talks in our private Facebook group. Join the mailing list today at theinsurancedudespodcast.com. Hey, thanks for checking out the Insurance Dudes. Hey, please subscribe. We got some really great stuff coming out.